I'm DM Sarah, and you are listening to Morris's unofficial Tabletop RPG Talk.
This week, Morrus and Peter are joined by Cezar Capacle to talk about Starlight Riders and crowdfunding role-playing games in Latin American countries. In the news, Wizards of the Coast registers Atomic Arcade trademark, the new Dragonlance novel appears briefly on Amazon, previews of the new D&D adventure for Strixhaven, the G4 Dungeons & Dragons show details have been officially announced, and more! Plus, our favorite game in all the world and a brand new sketch about planning birthdays for an evil overlord. This week on Morris's unofficial Tabletop RPG Talk.
This podcast is sponsored by Morrus Unofficial Tabletop RPG Talk. Hang on. This is Morrus Unofficial Tabletop RPG Talk. Is it sponsoring itself? But why? We're stuck in some sort of recursive loop, trapped in an infinite void of mirrors, spiraling through eternity in an increasingly self-referential abyss, cursed to... Oh, it's just a typo. Never mind.
All the tabletop role-playing news, we aim to amuse and we aim to enthuse. And Morris's unofficial tabletop RPG Talk.
Hello, and welcome to Morris's unofficial Tabletop RPG Talk. I am Russ, aka Morrus, or Morrus, aka Russ. And with me this week is...
Peter Coffey from the Southampton Guild of Roleplayers. Russ, as ever, it is a total delight to be here.
Who have you brought with you this week, Peter?
I have brought an amazingly talented game designer from Brazil who designs in both English and Portuguese. His name's Cezar Capacle, and his latest game is Starlight Riders. Is that right, Cezar?
That's correct. Thanks for having me.
Hello and welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Right then, so we got plenty to talk about, but before we do that, shall we jump into some RPG news?
Oh, go on, let's.
Because there's lots of RPG news this week as well.
Oh, exciting.
So, you know how the Guess the Kickstarter game works, where, I read out the name of a Kickstarter and you try and guess what it is from just the name?
No.
I'm going to give you a name of something, and I wanted to see what you think it... I'm hoping you haven't heard of this, but you may have heard the news in the last day or two. But if I said the words Atomic Arcade to you, what springs to mind?
For me, I'd be sort of vibing on some sort of late 50s, early 60s sort of game where it's like really delving into our friend the atom, better living through chemistry, that sort of Eisenhower era sort of jazz. And I'd be also hoping for maybe like an arcade style game where you've got like a really old fashioned video arcade.
It's a very retro name though, isn't it? It's super
yeah. That would be my guess. Something from the 80s, I would guess. An arcade from the 80s.
So what this is Wizards of the Coast, producers of D&D, have recently, as in last month, applied for a trademark, the US trademark office people thing,
yes,
for the words Atomic Arcade. So that was made in October. So what on earth could that be? So you dive into the trademark and find out what it allegedly covers, what it supposedly covers. And this is what it covers. So, downloadable electronic games to be used in connection with computers, console gaming devices, and wireless devices, fantasy role-playing games, board games, trading card games, and collectible toy figures, entertainment services, online computer games, and interact multiplayer online computer games via a global network.
Interesting. Specifically, Wizards has part of... I mean, Hasbro obviously covers like a lot of that ground.
Wizards of the Coast specifically, yeah.
Is that a new company? Maybe?
It's literally just the words. It could be. It could be.
Like some sort of augmented reality or virtual reality support for existing products.
Yeah,
we know they're going for like a digital Dungeons and Dragons. So
they're going for that big virtual tabletop, 3D graphically rich virtual tabletop thing they were showing pictures of earlier this year. I'm wondering if that's it.
Yeah, no idea. I haven't heard of it.
Sounds interesting.
I don't know that if that is it, I don't know that I would call it Atomic Arcade, but...
Well, with respect for us, you've got like a couple of $100 million worth of Wizards of the Coast now, aren't you?
This is...
I can see a pixel art for the logo of Atomic Arcade almost. Yeah,
Yes.
right? It's
really pixely, really retro.
yeah.
Yeah. We know what the logo should look like. We'll see what they come up with.
I mean, it might be like nothing to do with D&D at all.
Yeah. It might be they're doing a new game.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Maybe. But it's just that, you know, they have been talking about virtual tabletops, and we've got the 50th anniversary coming up and a sort of new edition, and I can't help but think that all of this is tied in together in some way.
I saw someone from the Screen Rant, they did this amazing review of Level Up, and they were saying it wasn't a new edition, it was like a mid-edition revision.
Yeah.
You know what? I dreamed last night that they announced a D&D 5.5. Can you believe that? And there was a focus on augmented reality and 3D stuff.
But the thing is, that you say that doesn't sound far-fetched. I could sort of see them doing that. Yeah, maybe. Well, I don't know. I mean, all we can do at this stage is guess, I guess.
Yeah.
Speculate wildly. Yeah. Our favourite activity. Perfect for a news programme.
Yeah. There's nothing like a spot of speculation to liven the day up, is there?
Wild, uninformed speculation.
Completely uninformed speculation, yeah.
Yes, how you're
Okay, well, let's move on to some slightly less uninformed speculation. And actually read some actual words that are on a page.
What? Craziness. Go on, what have we got?
So, briefly, and it's gone now, an Amazon Kindle page popped up for Margaret Wise and Tracy Hickman's new Dragonlance novel, Dragons of Deceit.
Yes. Did you manage to get your pre-order in?
So it's got a release date of August the 9th, 2022.
Yeah.
So if you remember, there was an old Amazon page for it, and it was supposed to be July 2021. But there was all that legal hassle, and there was that lawsuit, and there's been a pandemic, and there's all sorts of stuff been going on. So, you know. But anyway, August 9th, 2022. But the thing is, there was the cover blurb, the description of the book, which is interesting. So, here we go. So, Destina Rosethorn, as her name implies, believes herself to be very much a favoured child of destiny. But when her father dies in the War of the Lance, her carefully constructed world comes crashing down. Not only does she lose her beloved father, but the legacy he has left her, a wealthy fiancé, and rule over the family, lands, and castle. With nothing left in the world to support her but wits and determination, she hatches a bold plan to secure the device of time journeying she read about in one of her father's books and prevent her father's death. So the last known holder of the device was one of the heroes of the Lance, the free-spirited Kender Tasselhoff Burford. But when Destina arrives in Solace, home not only to Taz, but also to fellow heroes Caramon and Tika Majir, she sets into motion a chain of events more deadly than she had ever anticipated, one that could change not only her personal history, but the fate of the entire world, allowing a previously defeated evil to once again gain ascendancy.
Sounds fun.
Time travel. Dragon has more... Yes. Yeah. Reboot, maybe? Time travel? J.J. Abrams style soft reboot?
Oh, yeah, maybe. Just go and say, actually, we'd quite like to revisit Dragonlance and do it differently. Hey!
Yeah. I mean, are you a Dragonlance fan, Cezar?
I never had read anything of that. I know by, like, things that people share online, and I'm not very familiar with this one.
I don't know how well it's aged to revisit now. When's the last time? Yeah, when's the last time you read it, Peter?
I started rereading the first 3 books. I got about as far as Dragons of Winter Night, and I was like, I'm okay. I decided to do something else. That was last year. But to be fair, when I read it back when I was much younger, I did very much enjoy it. So, yeah.
Yeah, but how old were you then?
About 13, 14.
Right.
So, this is like decades ago. Yeah.
Just 30, 40 years ago, isn't it, Peter?
40 years ago. Yeah, whippersnapper, get off my lawn.
Yeah. I'm excited about this. I mean, I'm a Dragonlance fan. I'll be picking that book up. I'll be reading that.
I gotta say, like, I haven't read any Dragonlance books for absolutely ages, but this one does sound like one that might be fun to pick up. Because I sort of know, like, those older characters like Taz and Karen and Tika. And Solus is vaguely familiar. So, like, jumping back into it and see where it goes could be quite a good hopping on point if you just want to dabble your toes in the water, maybe.
Yeah, that was my question. Reading the blurb, do you believe that for a person like me that never read anything before would be a good, I don't know, hopping on point to get to learn a little bit about it?
So. I guess
it sounds like it'd be a good story that happens to be set in the Dragonlance universe rather than a book that you should read because it's in Dragonlance and you read all things Dragonlance, if you see what I mean. Yeah.
See, I am getting J.J. Abrams' Star Trek reboot vibes from that description. Soft alternate timeline reboot. Yeah. And so that would make it a good jumping on point, I think. I don't know. Guessing.
Yeah. I would be surprised. I think there's probably stuff that if you're really in depth in the lore, then there'll probably be stuff you'll be like, oh, that's really cool. Like little Easter eggs thrown in, but I would think this is supposed to be quite an accessible one.
Right.
Again, based on your report of a description of a bird.
Yeah. What I will say, that description, I was reading it out, it was filled with typos.
Oh, is it?
Which was a bit weird. Like, there's like 4 or 5 like glaring typos in that description.
Maybe it actually is the case that this wasn't supposed to be visible to the public.
That could be it.
It's actually an honest error, as opposed to the, oh no, our beautifully displayed book has become available for you to look at. Oh, what a shame. We'll take it away now. After you had a chance to look.
Yeah. Hey, Strixhaven.
Yes.
A Curriculum of Chaos. Coming out very soon, this month.
Yes. I can't believe it's not Harry Potter for the Dungeons and Dragons setting.
Yeah. So Wizards released this sort of overview stroke teaser sort of guide video to the book.
Yes.
And it covers a whole bunch of stuff, kind of briefly. It's about 5 minutes long. So the adventure has adventures from levels 1 to 10, uncovering a plot against the university. They teased university activities like tavern games, a magical frog race, an improv festival, a whole bunch of social encounters, mechanisms by which you could take exams to improve your skills.
Why would you do this?
You can join clubs. Okay. You can get jobs, apparently.
Yeah,
you look bewildered.
I've seen what do you make of this, Cezar? I'm sort of
I've read about it a few days ago, and it's some part of role playing games that I'm attracted to, but Dungeons and Dragons wouldn't be my choice to experience those kinds of stories. Really, I don't think you have to hammer on the system too much to deliver those kinds of experiences. And I think there are systems that are maybe a little bit better suited for that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'd agree with that.
I hear what you're saying. It's like, if I'm thinking I want to play a sort of a slice of life role-playing game,
exactly,
maybe with a fantastical twist, I'm probably not going to break out my D20s. But just call me old fashioned. I think there's like stuff that might support it better. But I guess if you've got the group that's invested, maybe it's good and you can do stuff with that.
Well, I guess the other side of that is also, I think Wizards are trying to expand what you use D&D for and attract younger players as well. So things like Wild Beyond the Witchlight and this, I think, are kind of targeted at younger audiences because when I started playing D&D, I was 12, and I'm still playing it now. So that's what they want to do. They want to get people in when they're 11 or 12, and hopefully they'll become lifetime gamers.
Yeah.
I guess it's
not a bad thing.
Yeah, that's a strategic point. It's a company, right? So we have to read their decisions on releases based on market. It's different when we talk about indie games release. I want people to have this kind of experience. Yeah. It's a large company. They want what kind of new customers, right? The new public they're aiming for. So it makes sense to think they're aiming for a different group of players.
Yeah.
We are guys.
And like I always said, not every D&D book has to be for me. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Some of it can be for a different audience. Yeah. Not that I dislike the idea of this at all. I think it's quite fun, but
it's probably the right setting if you're going to go for it. I think Magic School, but it's just
I'll read it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It's got a magic hour on the cover, so
it has got a magic hour on the cover. So there's a little bit more information. It's got a bestiary of over 40 new creatures in it. And there's a bunch of locations in it. So there's something called the Biblioplex.
Like a library, yeah.
It contains most of the information in the multiverse.
A very big library.
Big library.
Wow.
A mega library.
There's Captain Dapplewing's Manor, which is a mansion built for the university professors, and one of the adventures, because it's like an anthology adventures which you can play or not.
They're quite liking those, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, they were talking about how they were sort of designing more in bite-sized chunks recently, weren't they, if you recall? Yeah. Just because, like, most people tend to play in sort of 2 or 3 hour slots these days.
Okay, yeah.
And also because streaming is a lot more suited towards bite-sized chunks.
That's true.
Okay. So anyway, one adventure has the PCs breaking into this manor. And another adventure involves the main Strixhaven student sport, which is called Mage Tower.
Mage Tower.
And when you look at a picture of it, well, let's just say it looks an awful lot like Quidditch. There's this arena, and then there's these towers in it, and then you can just see, it's just like a isometric view from far above, and you can just see what presumably are wizards flying around inside this arena, and glows of light as they do different stuff. So,
like wizards flying around on brooms. Are they flying on broomsticks?
I can't quite make that out. Well, let me give you a link, and you can have a look, and you can decide for yourself whether they're flying on brooms.
Oh, I like the art they've got for this. It's quite friendly.
But it is super Quidditch.
It is, isn't it?
Oh, they've got an elephant person.
Yeah, they do indeed. They have an elephant person.
Yeah, they look like they're going on broomsticks, don't they?
A broom.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or,
right, okay.
Yeah.
It is Harry Potter D&D, isn't it?
It's legally distinct in many important ways.
Yeah. That was kind of fun.
Yeah, that sounds good. Unusual. Not grimdark, which I heartily approve of. I've had too much grimdark in my role-playing games lately.
Yeah. So what else have we got? So this is coming out December the 7th. Yeah, that's basically it. That's it.
Okay.
Coming out December the 7th, and they released that video with that information.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Let's have a look. There's got to be some more news. Oh, invitation to party.
I'm listening.
Would you like an invitation to party?
Yes.
Do you need an invitation to party?
Not really, but it's always polite.
It's always nice.
Good to have one.
Precisely.
Yeah. So this is. Do you remember G4 announced that they were going to? That's like an American esports channel. It's an esports channel.
They transferred to esports. They did that bigger like hoorah that they had. Yeah,
and so they announced that they were making a D&D show, which was going to be streamed and then shown on G4 TV, which is... I'm still not 100% sure what G4 TV is. It's some kind of digital...
Some sort of TV station, perhaps.
Something... I'm not sure, but I think probably you have to be in the US to access it, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, so they've announced the name of their show.
Yes.
It's called Invitation to Party. It features B. Dave Walters as the Dungeon Master. And the players, I'm not familiar with these people, but Kassem, I'm going to mangle their names as well. I'm going to feel terrible about it.
How's your way?
Yeah. Yes. Kassem Garabe, Fiona Nova, Indiana Black. I could do Indiana Black. That's an easy one. And Iffy Noadiwi. I do apologise to those people. I really do.
You're trying your best. We understand.
That's sharp. Yeah, okay. So that sounds interesting.
Yeah, so they're marketing it as television's first programme dedicated to tabletop gaming.
Okay. That could well be true, for all I know.
Oh, yeah, I mean, could be.
Unless you count chess.
It's, well, yeah, and poker.
Very true. That is tabletop gaming, although tabletop role-playing games would probably have been.
Yeah. But it starts on Friday, November the 19th, and that will be on their Twitch and YouTube channels. And then the following Monday is broadcast on their cable and satellite network.
Right. So it's going out on YouTube first.
It's going on YouTube and Twitch, streamed on the Friday.
Yeah. And then they're going to put it out on cable and satellite.
On the Monday, the following Monday.
Right.
Huh. That's interesting. So you said tabletop RPGs or tabletop games in general?
They said tabletop gaming is what they've said.
Right.
And they've announced D&D, I assume D&D party. So yeah, I guess we'll see what they mean by that.
Yeah.
And I guess that also tells us about G4 because they have cable and satellite power. And they're like, yeah, but we're going to put it out on YouTube first, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, though, I bet online stuff probably gets as many viewers as cable stuff does these days.
For sure.
I would have thought.
I honestly can tell you.
Yeah, I appreciate the effort to try and reach to a different audience, but hearing that they plan to release on YouTube and Twitch first tells me that they know what kind of audience they might have first, and then maybe expand to a different people, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll find out, I guess. Friday, November the 19th. Is that next week?
That's
week after?
Next week.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Or maybe if we get the times right, which we won't,
okay, so
we might be able to watch it before the podcast.
So it's 3 p.m. Pacific.
Oh, crikey! That might be 2 p.m. GMT. Yeah.
No, that's 11 p.m. GMT.
Okay. Well, there we go.
So, do you want to watch a D&D show at 11 o'clock at night on a Friday night? Is the question.
Oh, it's 11 p.m.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nah, it's all right. I'll catch it. I thought you said 11 a.m. I think, man, I might have to watch it before I start the podcast.
No, 11 p.m.
On a Friday.
That's fine.
So that's your invitation to party.
Yes.
I am busy. I have some gaming to do. Thank you very much.
I've got an invitation to actually party. Thank you very much.
Yeah, online gaming. Yeah. Anyway. We digress.
Yes. We frequently digress. It's what we're best at. Right, so we got a All Group industry report, the Roll20 usage report things that they do every quarter.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So they've just launched one just this week. This is for the third quarter of 2021. So, obviously, D&D 5th edition right at the top, as always.
Yeah.
Call of Cthulhu's in second place again, like it has been recently for about the last 2 or 3 times.
Interesting.
Last time it was at about 15%, and it's dropped down to about 11 now, so it's lost about 4%. So,
has 5th edition increased its share, or other games?
D&D's gone up by about 0.4%, so it's
basically
pretty much the same. Yeah. So the biggest thing was, what was it? It was Vampire the Masquerade had a 500% increase. Which is
quite inexplicable to me.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what happened. Did a new thing get released recently?
Not that I remember.
Because 5th edition came out like 2 years ago.
Maybe something specific to Roll20, maybe? Like modules or support or characters.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you something actually. I don't think we covered it, but apparently Roll20's doing a convention. They're doing it this weekend.
Yes, yeah. An
Which is
online virtual convention,
right.
yeah.
Maybe we could mention it more than a week in advance, guys. Then I could actually have mentioned it on the podcast and let people know about it.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this, I'm very sorry, but they're doing a convention and you missed it. So sorry.
Yeah.
Unless you're listening to it on Saturday, you might be able to nip in.
Yeah.
But if you're listening to it on Monday, then sorry, you missed it. We didn't know.
What's interesting with these Roll20 support figures, though, is the Pathfinder stuff. Because we've mentioned this before, and Pathfinder is incredibly low on these. It's like 3% or something. Tiny figures. But the general thought on that is that that's because Pathfinder players don't use Roll20. They use Foundry. I've never used Foundry, so I couldn't tell you how true that is, but that's what I keep hearing. Whenever these reports come out, people go, that's because that's not Roll20.
What about you, Cezar? Do you use a virtual tabletop for anything?
I do, but I find most of them a little too much for me, so I'm more of a Owlbear Rodeo kind of guy. That's just
That's the really simple one, isn't it?
Yeah. You just log in.
Yeah.
You just share a link, drop PNG images, and you're ready to go.
Yeah.
And I actually,
sketchboard.
Yeah, exactly. I came across a new one. It's in Spanish, really. And I found it fascinating. I have the name here, if you don't mind. It's
please.
Nível 20 or Level 20 in Spanish and Portuguese.
Nível 20, yeah.
/ tabletop. So you can just drag and drop a PNG of a battle map, and you can use PNG of characters that you usually use for paper minis. You print out and cut them. So if you use this image, they create a 3D version of your paper mini, and you can play on a 3D table.
Oh, cool!
And it's just drag and drop, and it's free. No login. I
am gonna have to try this out. I like the sound of that.
Very lightweight. You don't have to install anything, and I'll drop the link for you guys.
Yeah, please do.
Oh, fantastic! There you go.
Is that in browser? Is that in browser? That then?
In browser, yeah.
Oh wow!
Oh,
even better.
And I think they have a Patreon if you want to support the development, but it's completely free to use.
Very cool.
I think that this last report of Roll20 showed a Brazilian tabletop game called
Tormenta. Yeah. I was about to
a storm or something.
Yeah. So that went up 45%. That game.
Yeah.
Nice.
Have you played that game? Is it any fun? Is it good?
It's a D20 based game, it is the largest Brazilian tabletop RPG. They had the equivalent of a Kickstarter for Brazil I guess last year, and they raised near 2 million reais, but it's something like, at the time, was something like $500,000.
A respectable chunk of change.
It is. And, they have a huge lore, maybe 10 novels based on this
Oh, wow.
And a very intense community. So I was surprised to see it on a global platform, but I'm not surprised that it is Tormenta, because it has the largest fan base. For sure.
Yeah. And is it sort of a fantasy sort of game?
Is it the vanillaiest of fantasies? It's just
high fantasy.
It's good, very evil. High fantasy, and they leaned on, at least on the first edition, heavily on the manga anime style for their illustrations and art.
Right, yeah.
And so it spoke to a lot of people, a lot of young people as well. And so they can do the most outrageous things when it comes to extrapolating the high fantasy stuff. So it is fun, and you can play as the weirdest races, and it's very over the top fantasy, and but in a very well built lore as well. But it is a sort of spin-off of the 20 systems.
Yeah.
You could definitely have a lot of fun playing it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing. Yeah,
for sure.
You said that it's interesting that was on a global platform, but I was just thinking about Call of Cthulhu and the way that's doing so well on Roll20, and a lot of that I think is attributed to the fact that it's so popular in Japan rather than in the US, which is interesting.
Yeah, actually, that since you mentioned it, I'm wondering where are the people playing the Dark Eye, the German game? Because I don't know.
I mean, there might be on this list. Well, I've got a list of them all here, but there's a lot of games, and they're in order of popularity, not alphabetical order. So it's probably on there somewhere.
Yeah, there's probably gaming going on, and we just don't know about it because it's not reaching English language news sites.
Yeah,
bit of a problem.
Possibly. Yeah. So other things that have gone up. So there's Tormenta, which was the Brazilian one, has gone up 45%, and we mentioned Vampire went up 500%, which is big chunk. Powered by the Apocalypse games are up 130%. Okay. World of Darkness overall is up 550%, so it's not just Vampire, it's all of them.
Now, when we say these sort of like big increases in numbers, what's the actual...
No, that is a good question, and I don't know is the answer to that. I mean, I could find out, but I would have spent ages poking through this really, really long list, and you'd have to watch me doing that. And oh no,
excellent material.
Okay,
for any
I found
podcast.
it. Oh no, okay. I found it. Oh god, yeah, they're only at 0.25% about Vampire.
Yeah. Okay, but I mean, how many games on Roll20 is that?
Well, they stopped giving absolute numbers. Roll20, they only give percentages now.
Right. So we just have to guess how many games that they're running. So we've no idea. So it could be like loads, or it could be not.
Well, put it this way: D&D was at 53%, and this is at 0.25%.
Right.
So as a sense of scale.
Yeah. So.
And Tormenta is 0.6%, give or take.
Right.
So like almost 3 times what Vampire's doing.
Yeah. So we can tell how they're doing relatively, but knowing the numbers of games seems important. I guess they don't want to tell us in case they say, "Oh no, Roll20's get the schemes playing or something."
Oh yeah, who knows? Yeah, I don't know.
Excellent.
Otherwise, we've got Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay up 50%, and Modiphius' 2D20 is up 160%.
Well, I mean, don't forget June has hit cinemas.
There is that.
So
yeah. We might be near the end of the news, actually.
Cezar, are there any developments, any projects going on that you'd like to shout out?
Yeah, there is.
Fantastic.
Actually. Yeah.
Brilliant. I'm really pleased. Tell us, what's going on?
So, speaking on the topic that I'm going to talk later on the show, but since this is the new segment, I think I have to shout out the Latvian Breakout Kickstarter that's going on. I don't know if you guys heard of it. Yeah. I've got it on my Kickstarters to backlist. They sent me a thing, and I forgot to write it in my diary so I could mention it on the show. So I'm glad one of us is competent. So
it's like got five different
five
gaming
games,
authors. Yeah,
5 creators, 5 games from the Latin America, and since we don't have access to Kickstarter. Soul Muppet Publishing is hosting this Kickstarter. So you can pick and choose which games you want to support. So there are backing levels to grab each one of them individually, or you can have like a whole package and grab all 5 of them. As we are recording this, there's still 25 days to go, and they are short a little more than $2,000 to reach the goal. So go ahead and back it.
So
I'm not on it, but I want to support. Well, the Global South thing is much larger than myself, that's for sure. And there are like hundreds, if not thousands, of creators. So we have a chance to spotlight 5 of those through this Kickstarter. So if you have a chance, go ahead and back them.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. You've got Brave Zenith, Ultra Eterna, Here There Be Monsters, Mayflies and Cantrip, which range from some games that I don't I got to say, I'm looking at Ultra and Eterna, and it seems wild. I don't understand it, but they're saying, yes, we're going for Megway and Vincent Baker's Apocalypse World, so I'm guessing there's going to be something going on there, inspired by games like Final Fantasy V, and then there's like Here There Be Monsters, which is going for more of a Hellboy, BPRD, Laundry File series, a bit of a Men in Black style world. Then there's Mayflies, which is a post-apocalyptic one, and like just the description really evokes Nausicaa, Valley of the Wind for me. And then there's Cantrip, which is a game which altogether I'm like looking at it and thinking, well, actually, we were saying earlier, I wouldn't reach for my D20 to play the Strixhaven games. Mm-hmm. I might well do that for this game.
Exactly.
Because it's like, okay, yeah, Cantrip looks like it's going to offer the same sort of slice of life, but without necessarily having to create a Dungeons & Dragons character.
It's a BOB game. It's a belonging outside belonging, that line of games that came from Avery Alder and Dream Askew, Dream Apart. So it's diceless and GMless. So it's very focused on narrative sharing and slice of life gameplay. That's where Wonder Home came from. So if you look through the Kickstarter page, the array of art styles, I think there's 5 games they selected. It's so cool because it shows the versatility of the creators and things that we don't normally find elsewhere.
Right.
So, you mentioned Dream Askew, Dream Apart. That is actually something we've looked at on the show before, but you said it was a B&B style?
B.O.B. So belong
B.O.B.
outside belonging. That's the line of games that use the kind of system. So they call themselves B.O.B., like in PBTA, so it's an acronym for...
Sure. No, that's fine. Belong outside belong. Okay, thank you. Most educational.
All right then. Since we're talking about Kickstarters,
yes,
I know what time it is.
It's time to play our favorite game. It's time to play the game. Our favorite game in all the world. Guess the Kickstarter from just the name.
I think it's time that we played our favourite game in all the world. The game where I read out the name of a Kickstarter and you try and guess what it is from just the name. Are you ready?
Oh, darn it.
Let's do this.
Who would like to go first?
Well, shall I go first, and you can see how it can or cannot be done?
Please, Peter.
Not necessarily how it ought to be done.
Okay. Peter.
Yes.
Are you ready?
What you got? Yeah, hit me. What you got?
What is Shanty Hunters?
Oh, it sounds interesting. I guess it feels like... Is that Shanty?
Yes.
Good. That's important. So it feels like it's a game set in sort of a shanty town, which is sort of like improvised living style of things. And I guess maybe you are people who are living on the edge of society who are being assailed by supernatural beasts. And quite frankly, that's not cool. That's not on. And so you're playing the part of these people who go and hunt down these vampires and give them a good staking. It might not be vampires, it might be werewolves or something, but smart ways and vampires. Okay. How's that?
So there's two ways you can use the word shanty. One is the way you just used it.
Yes.
The other is as in sea shanty.
That was my
guess. Fantastic. Wow, there you go.
You had a 50-50 chance, though, I guess.
Never mind.
So it's 1880.
Yes.
And sea shanties are fading away. And you're travelling the world to document them, but an evil spirit is determined to sink your ship before you can do that. It's like quite a specific kind of a specific game. It uses the gumshoe system.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, just a quite fun. I like the idea of it. Let's have a look. So it's got 3 weeks to go.
Yes.
It's well and truly funded. It's done $7,000 out of its $7,000 from its $1,000 goal.
Nice.
And yeah, it looks kind of fun to me. All the art appears to be sort of like old black and white photo art, which they've used, like old, those old sort of black and white pictures of ships that you see.
Oh, like No, it's gone completely. There's like a game where you're sort of being a detective on a ship, and you've got like you're an insurance agent looking at a ship, and you've got like a little timepiece that like lets you go back in time to look at things that happened. Yes. What is it called? Yeah. As soon as I've seen the name, I'm just scrolling frantically through my Steam library looking for it. The Obra Dinn. Yeah, something like that. What's it called? Obra Dinn. Where is it? It must be on Jess's computer, yeah. It's like something like the Return of the Obra Dinn, which is, like a very black and white. You've got the things, and you're sort of, you see like little set pieces with a narration over of like terrible things happening to people. And then you're sort of working out, you've got like a crew manifest, and you're sort of working out how they die. So I guess this seems like, if you like that aesthetic, this seems like a very strong connection to that game.
I have no idea.
It's a Return of the Obra Dinn, exactly.
Yes, yeah. Love that game.
Well, this one, which is Shanty Hunters, is written by Tristan Zimmerman, and he's a US Navy veteran with a lifelong love of the ocean.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, presumably knows good sea sand.
Yeah. So no point for you there, Peter. 0 point, nil point, as they always say in Eurovision.
I take the consolation that this idea was much better than anything I came up with.
Okay then. So, Cezar, are you ready?
Yeah, you can do this. Woohoo!
Right. What is between sun and shadow?
Mm-hmm.
Between sun and shadow. Okay, I am thinking of an 80s movie that I don't know the name in English, but the people, there was a couple that was cursed. They could only see themselves at the sunset because they turned into animals. The man turned into an animal in the evening, and the girl turned into an animal in the morning. So they had like this split second that they could see each other.
Dusk and dawn. Yeah.
Yeah, so between the sun and the shadow gives me this vibe. So I'm thinking of a 2-player game that we play as a cursed couple trying to find a cure so they can be together again. I'm probably way off, but just reminding of this movie, it's all worth it.
Like, you have to make this game now if this is not the game.
Right. It is not that game, but that does sound like an awesome movie.
Yeah. 100%.
What's the movie called, did you say?
I don't know the name in English, but I can search it. Feitiço de Áquila in Portuguese, but Lady Hawk.
Lady Hawk?
Lady Hawk, yeah. It's 1985.
I've heard of it. I've never seen it. I have heard of it.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's embarrassing. There's like listeners even now who are like up in arms saying, how dare they have never watched Lady Hawk? I'm sorry. I never got round to it. I've not seen it. Please don't challenge. It's not the Lady Hawk RPG.
It's not the Lady Hawk RPG.
All right.
We're disappointed. But
so it's a campaign setting for Tiny Dungeon 2nd edition. In a land divided between the unblinking sun and the everlasting shadow, the wondrous creations of master alchemists and clockwork engineers help create a thriving society.
Okay.
Yeah.
Almost.
Almost, yeah. So this particular Kickstarter is an adventure for that system. And it's an adventure called Realms of Adventure. And it expands between sun and shadow with new heritages, traits, prestige traits, clockwork gear. So it's an expansion for Between Sun and Shadow.
I gotta say, I'm sort of interested in that because I'm sort of wondering, would it be possible to build some sort of heat pump exchange system that you could use the eternal sunshine on one side to like maybe make a solar boiler and then like send that to the cold side where you could use it to heat things up and just like then send it back to water and like just have a closed loop and keep it recirculating.
I have no idea.
To get work done.
I don't know, Peter.
That would be fun.
That sounds like an excellent idea, yes.
It's probably why I'm not allowed to play in this system.
No. Okay. Peter, your turn.
Oh, yes.
Okay, what is Mother of Monsters?
Ooh. Well, it sort of feels like a reference to, Legend of Hero with Grendel turning up And then Beowulf obviously rips off Grendel's arm, and Grendel's mum comes around and complains. And it's like, what are you doing? So that's what it feels like. So I guess Mother of Monsters would be, I guess maybe it's a game where you play as monsters, but you're part of one monstrous family. So, and you're just trying to look after your kids and, get by. So maybe like a... what's that
this is not going to be a high-scoring game this week.
It's not going to be a high-scoring game this week. It's fine.
Doesn't look like.
So there you go. That's what I'd be hoping for Mother of Monsters. I'd be hoping for a game where you're a bunch of monster kids and you're, I don't know, doing role-playing games, stuff, solving mysteries, fighting crime.
So what this is something that's never been done before, except for the 10 turns it's been done before. It is a D&D 5th edition ancient Greek campaign setting.
Did they actually write it's never been done before?
No, I said that.
Oh, that's all right then.
I was being hilarious.
Facetious. Facetious for us.
So this is by Legendary Games, and they put out a lot of good stuff. They do a lot of Kickstarters. They do a lot of good stuff. So this is probably a really, really, really great example of a D&D 5th edition Greek campaign setting. But basically, that's what it is. If you want a D&D 5e Greek setting, ancient Greece setting, this is the one for you. Or you can get Thoros, or you can get one of the
other nine.
One of the other nine, but this one's on Kickstarter right now, and it's doing very
Fantastic.
Well. Yeah. They've
do you get hoplites?
I'm almost sure they most probably do. I expect. I haven't actually looked to check, but it seems likely.
I am satisfied.
Yes.
Please proceed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, no points. So
You're doing great, Peter.
So Cezar, all you have to do is score a point, 1 point, and you'll have won.
Right.
And avoid scoring minus $1 million.
Oh, yes, avoid scoring that.
That's very possible, so try not to do that.
Right.
Right, let me have a look
Hit me.
Let me have a look at the options. Some of these are really easy. No, some of these are really easy.
Suspense killing me.
It's okay to ask an easy one, Russ.
I'll make sure to get it wrong. It doesn't matter how easy it is.
Hey, I believe in you. You've got this.
Okay.
Just choose something evocative.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is SCP? The role-playing game.
So it's an acronym.
SCP.
The role-playing game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I haven't actually seen this Kickstarter, but I know exactly what it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You have seen it. So
I haven't seen this Kickstarter, but I know exactly what it is.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
No.
SCP.
SCP.
It's an acronym for a kind of investigation bureau. So like FBI, but this is SCP. So I'm imagining a kind of urban shadows stuff. So it's urban fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And you play as investigators of the dark arts in a city. That's my best guess.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Secure, Contain, Protect. Which is the SCP project.
I was literally just scrolling through the page and I couldn't work out what SCP actually stood for. I'm scrolling and scrolling.
It stands for Secure, Contain, Protect, Russ.
Doesn't actually say so.
I'm telling you, because it's part of the SCP project, which is this sort of, it's like a wiki full of like flash fiction of people thinking of like terrible, awful things. Like maybe there's a house and you go inside it and then you disappear.
Right.
Or there's like a telephone, and normally it works like a telephone, but sometimes it will ring and somebody will whisper 7 days, and then you die in 7 days. Or just sort of all sorts of like weird horror movie plots and strange weirdness things.
Okay.
So it's like basically it's not the sort of thing you want to read just before you go to bed.
So
unless you need to stay up late.
So this is described by Egg Embry as sort of X-Files, Delta Green, and Cthulhu, and its own thing as well. Is that a fair description?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's
yeah.
I mean, to be fair, Caesar was like pretty.
Yeah, I think you were pretty close there. It's a Creative Commons setting, open for anyone to create content for.
Yeah.
Using an original game system, using a dice pool.
Yeah.
So I think
I must say, sight unseen, I would strongly recommend having a look at this game and maybe also at the original wiki, because it's going to be a rich source of terrible things
weird
for
stuff
your players to look at. Terrible weirdness that your players will go, why? What?
Okay.
No.
So anyway, Cezar, you were pretty spot on. I'll give you 1,000 points for that. Congratulations.
Yay!
I think that means you are this week's winner of our favourite game in all the world, and you get to take home the metaphorical trophy, which is a smug sense of self-satisfaction. Congratulations.
Thank you. I feel very self-satisfied.
Good. Greetings, Burke. It's a fine day here on the 17th level of the dungeon, is it not?
If you say so, Bork. I haven't seen sunlight in 14 millennia.
Well, never mind that, Burke. It's a special day today.
A special day, Bork?
Yes, it's the Master's birthday.
It is? How old is he today?
12,423 years old, I believe.
Oh, are we organising anything?
Has he said anything?
Well, he said something about not making a fuss last week.
Right. So, no surprise party then?
Oh, no, we wouldn't want to upset him. Last time we threw a surprise party for him, he immolated poor old Bacco.
Yes. When the Archlich Gravassamore the Undying says not to make a fuss, you don't make a fuss if you know what's good for you.
But what if he's only pretending not to want a party?
What?
You know how some people say, don't make a fuss, but really they do want you to arrange something spectacular?
What? Like a double bluff?
Well, sort of, I suppose, yes.
Oh my, yes, I remember poor old Cezar 1,000 or so years back. The Master told everybody to ignore his birthday that year. You know how sensitive he can be about his age.
Yes, so Cecil made sure to avoid any kind of celebration and got 500 years on the rack for his troubles.
Oh, yes, we wouldn't want that now.
Oh, agreed.
So, what do we do?
Oh, it's a pretty conundrum, to be sure. If he secretly wants a surprise party and we don't organise one, we're in deep trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But if he doesn't want a big do and we do arrange one, we're up the creek without the proverbial, if you get what I'm saying.
How can we possibly decide?
We could flip a coin.
What? Determine the fate of our eternal souls? On a coin flip?
Well, we are the evil henchmen of the world's premier dark overlord. I don't think the fate of our eternal souls is in any doubt, really, Bork.
Well, less eternal bodies then. I'm quite attached to mine.
Oh, yes, me too. Quite attached. Literally, you might say.
Right. So, no coin flip. Do you have any other ideas?
We could just ask him.
Oh, good one, Burke, good one. Ask him indeed. Ask the Prince of Deception whether he wants a surprise birthday party. If only things were that simple.
I know. Well, we could sneak a peek at his journal, the book where he records his deepest thoughts and dreams.
Aren't his deepest thoughts and dreams about conquest of the known world and annihilation of all who oppose him?
Well, yes, but I'm sure he'll have mentioned his birthday in there somewhere.
Okay. Fine. Right, is anyone looking?
All clear, Bork.
Okay, let's see. My, this is a big book. His handwriting is appalling.
Get on with it, Bork.
Yeah, so, world domination, blah, blah. Raise 9 kingdoms to the ground, blah, blah. Usurp the god of light from her throne, blah, blah, blah. Declare martial law, blah, blah. Create an army of zombie velociraptors.
Ooh, I like that one.
End time itself and plunge the universe into the roiling void.
Oh, the usual stuff.
Here it is, birthday plans. My 12,423rd birthday approaches, and I feel weary. I have instructed my minions to make no fuss. But it is a test. Any who fail to arrange a suitable celebration shall be immolated by the acid spittle of the great troll worm, as an example to all who follow.
Oh, well, that's fairly clear then. We need to arrange a party, quick.
But what if it's a trap?
A trap, Bork?
Well, what if he knew we'd look at here and it's all an elaborate double bluff?
Ooh, maybe we should check his secret personal diary too then.
Good idea. I'll keep watch while you look through it.
Let's see, more about plunging the world into an eternity of darkness, something about exacting terrible revenge on the servants of good. Here it is. I have laid a terrible trap. In my journal, I have written that I desire a birthday party, but the truth is that I despise such shallow affairs. I will exfoliate any who arrange such an event to death.
Oh my. It's like a triple bluff, isn't it?
So, no party then?
I suppose not. Unless
what?
He does keep a super secret chronicle that he thinks nobody knows about.
You mean it could be a quadruple bluff?
It could be. He could have anticipated that we'd look in his journal and in his diary and recorded his true plans in the hidden chronicle.
How devious! No wonder he's the overlord of the Southern Marches.
You don't get to be overlord of the Southern Marches with only 2 journals, Burke.
That's my old ma used to say. Anyway, the hidden chronicle?
Yes, here it is. Now then, what does this say?
You know, Bork.
What's up, Burke?
How will we ever know if we've reached the end of the chain of bluffs?
I suppose you won't, Burke.
So, we might as well just flip a coin after all.
I can't see that would substantially change our odds. And would be considerably less effort, Burke.
Radio. Dragons or crowns?
Dragons we throw a party, crowns we don't?
Here goes. Hey, so Peter, I was walking down the road the other day and I saw this bunch of really cool, good-looking people.
Cool, good looking. That could only be our patrons.
Yep, man, I have never seen such a well-informed, debonair bunch in all my life.
Yeah, right, why is that?
I don't know, you tell me.
Well, if I was forced to speculate, I guess it's because they listen to our top secret, super exclusive bonus episode every week.
Bonus episode? What?
Yeah. Each week, our patrons get an extra half hour or even more of extra content that nobody else gets to hear.
Oh, wow! That's amazing! Where can they find this?
Oh, it's pretty simple. You just head over to patreon.com/Morrus and pledge a monthly donation. Anything from $1 to whatever you think we're worth.
I did a scientific calculation once, just to see how much we're worth.
Oh, yeah? How much?
You probably don't want to know.
Probably for the best.
Anyway, if you enjoy our podcast, please head on over to patreon.com/Morrus and, just pledge a little.
That's patreon.com/Morrus. And thank you so much for your support. We couldn't do this without you.
I reckon we could.
Shh.
So, Cezar, before we start,
Yes.
I think just so the listeners know what we're talking about, I'm sure most of them do, but for the few that aren't familiar with the terminology, what is meant by the Global South? What's the term mean?
Right. So, when I was in school, we learned that ourselves, Brazil and other southern countries, we belong to the third world. That terminology was then, I guess, substituted mostly for the Global South, which doesn't necessarily mean the geographical South, because it excludes Oceania, Australia, and everything else. But more or less, it's below the equator for most part, and so it encompasses Latin America, Africa, and a big chunk of Asia.
Right. Okay. And people in the Global South, the biggest sort of RPG market, as we know, is the US, without a doubt. Probably followed by, I imagine, Europe is probably second. And a lot of that is powered through tools like Kickstarter and services like that. But they're kind of very limited to a small number of countries. And people in the Global South, therefore, might have difficulty accessing some of the resources that the people in America or Europe might have access to. Is that fair to say? Is it?
Yeah, it is. Well, first, I think it's important to have a small disclaimer before we dive deeper into it.
Yeah.
It's obvious, but just to make sure, I don't claim to be a spokesperson for the Global South at all.
Right.
My perspective is very limited to the experiences I have, and even in the Global South context, I see myself in a position of privilege, being sort of white. I'm Latin, but in the context, I'm male, I'm cis, I'm straight. I was raised in a middle-class family, and I speak English. So I recognize the amount of privilege that I have even in the Global South context.
Right.
Setting that aside, what I can talk about is some common points that are true for everyone in the Global South, pretty much, in different levels of access, which is one of the things is the difficulty of access to funding platforms and distribution platforms as well. So Kickstarter is very limited, and it was shocking to me when I first talked about it that most people that do have access to Kickstarter didn't even know that it's just only like 20-something countries that can have projects kickstarted. And it's hard to compete with anything else. Kickstart became a verb. Well, it was a verb before, but became a verb regarding financing.
For crowdfunding.
Crowdfunding.
Exactly.
I'll kickstart my game. And it is a source of news. Well, your show is a prime example of that. You grab the news. There's a section of the show about Kickstarter. So it became a synonym of a platform for games. And when you were born in the wrong country and you don't have access at all to that, it's kind of frustrating and infuriating at the same time. So we have a very, very large community of creators, and just creating in English. I'm not even talking about people that created in their native languages, but creating in English. And we want to spread the word. We have different perspectives. We have different games and everything. So it's good to try and raise our voices somehow.
I mean, Russ, you yourself, Kickstarter's not always accepted the UK, for example. So I know one of your first.
I mean, it has for a long time. When it launched.
But some of the first ones, when you're getting Zeitgeist started, that had to be done through one of your US authors for the game.
Ryan Knox, Ryan Knox account, But that was 10 years ago.
So,
something like that.
Changed, but But getting the access to Kickstarter would definitely be something that would really help out people in Brazil, especially.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know how I managed without Kickstarter. It's amazing. It's probably the single most powerful tool for small creators in the world, isn't it?
It is, for sure. Well, so we have to make do with workarounds. So each funding is a workaround, but it doesn't have nearly the same reach as Kickstarter does. We're taking 10. We're talking 10%, maybe less, that you can raise.
You don't hear monthly about $1 million itch funded RPGs, do you?
Itch crowdfunding campaigns.
So what other workarounds are there available then? Presumably you can work with partners in.
So the most successful way to have your game released is with a partner, which is not always simple. There is an example running right now, which you talked about on the show.
The Latin American Breakout,
Yeah, and the other one is Kalimba, which is you talked about it too, right? Daniel is a friend of mine. I know him online, but I consider him a friend. And I don't know exactly how he managed to do, but if you go to the Kickstarter page, it shows Illinois, I guess, US. So there is a company, an overseas company, doing all the stuff, and not only to provide a way for you to use Kickstarter, but to print and deliver the games. Because this is another ball game, man. If I decide to print things in Brazil, it will be more expensive. And just shipping that will be impossible. Brazilian mail services known for its idiosyncrasies and its price. So, impossible. You have to have someone.
I know shipping to Brazil is very expensive.
It is. Logistics is a nightmare. So,
and you said the price of books would be higher as well, which I felt kind of surprising.
No,
because I thought they'd be cheaper to produce, but that's not the case.
Not the case. No, not at all. I actually talked to someone in Croatia, I guess, and they offered me a partnership that would be cheaper to print my games in Croatia and ship to the US instead of doing it in Brazil.
Wow.
Less than ideal, but that would be something, right?
Okay.
But again, what is a little frustrating is I hear every now and then when I'm listening to podcasts of producers in America, they come up with an idea on spot and they casually say, I think I'll run a 2-week Kickstarter just to get the zine printed and let's see how it goes. And they raise like $5,000. And I said, oh my God, I wish I could do that. Because doing this logistics for like a large game, it kind of makes sense, like a 300 hardcover thing. But if you have a cool idea for a zine, and then you
can't quickly do it.
You can.
Right.
So it sucks, right? Then I can do POD. That's what I do, print on demand for my games. But they're more expensive, so I have to cut on my margin, so it's accessible, and it's not exactly the same quality of the offset printing. But in the how do you sell that? I have to sell a PDF with a coupon for at-cost print on demand. So for a consumer standpoint, it's not the ideal way to buy a game. You know?
There's like blocks to actually being able to get the access to the book you want. It's not like Amazon. It's one click. It turns up at your house.
It's a multi-step process.
And like I think you were saying, Russ, like every step you put in does lead to you lose customers, basically.
Yeah, it was the 10% rule, wasn't it? Each step of the way, your customer base drops by 10% for each thing you ask them to do. So the smaller number of steps you can get, the better.
Right. And so if I did run an H fund for my latest release, which was fun, was successful. It was $800, but I'm doing everything, so I don't have to pay artists and everything. So it's cool. But then there are tax cuts because since Brazil doesn't have an agreement with the U.S., we don't have a standardized tax cut, so they have to take 30% off, and that's on top of everything the platform takes for themselves. So everything that you do on itch, you lose 40%.
Wow. Yeah.
And itch is quite good, I think, because itch's been recommended to us on the basis that they take a smaller cut of the creator's final money. So
they have a slider. You can actually adjust how much they take out of you.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. But 30% of taxes, man,
that's a lot.
Wow.
And then you have
if you were selling via drive-thru RPG though, you'd have that 30% tax and
35%.
35% to drive-thru RPG. So that's most of it, isn't it?
Yeah,
that is punishing.
And then you have to use the money. So then there's exchange rates, and you lose money when you change from dollars to your local currency. So in the end, I raise like 1,000, I get 400.
Right.
I have the advantage now, if I'm selling to overseas, that the currency exchange is in favor of me. So, I can't buy anything from, the US because it's 6 times. But when I sell to the US, I get 6 times. So, when I'm in the selling end, it's an advantage. If I see a cool Kickstarter. Oh, it's just $10 for the PDF. Nobody.
Like 60.
It's 60 for me, and 60 for me is like 4 meals, and I can't spend 4 meals on a PDF right now.
Crazy. Wow.
So with Kickstarter only covering like 20 countries, as you say, I don't know whether it's something you've looked into, but is there any sort of like talks of them expanding it further beyond that, or is it just stopped dead, or is it?
Well, the Kickstarter page that lists all these countries, they say, how are their projects with locations? Can I launch with anywhere else? The answer is we're working hard to open up Kickstarter to project creators in even more countries. That's it.
Right. And when's the last time they did open one in a new country?
Years.
Years ago, yeah.
And
so they're not working that hard then, I guess.
I don't think so, no. Because I mean, I understand there are tax problems when we're trying to navigate legislation in every country regarding donation and crowdfunding. But I mean, Indiegogo has done it, GameFound has done it, Itch has done it, so there is a way.
So it's obviously not impossible, It can be done,
They can do it.
Yeah. So
I guess they don't feel the need to because they're getting $1 million Kickstarters.
I guess I think probably with Kickstarter that is the thing there isn't much impetus for it to change, like just from someone who uses Kickstarter regularly, like its back-end tools are quite bad, and there's no impetus for them to make them any better because they've got pretty much the whole market.
Yeah.
I mean, there's Indiegogo's got a bit, and like the other ones are almost non-existent, aren't they?
GameFound, it's new, it's promising, but I mean, once again, what are we trying to do when we're talking about people from outside of the US and UE center? We're trying to raise voices. And when you're trying to raise voices, you need the best platform there is to do that. We're already on the margins of the market. So if we use platforms that are on the margin, we were going to stay there.
Yeah.
And we have so much to say.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of games. After I talked about it on Twitter, and it ended up being a Dicebreaker article about my Twitter thread, I started a collection on Itch, just picking up games from the Global South. And it's up to 358 games.
Wow.
And just games in English produced by those people. So, and it's a part of the Global South, really. I'm mixing here the RPG LATAM and RPGC, which stands for Latin America and Southeast Asia.
And Southeast Asia,
Which, it's a big chunk of the Global South, but it's not, I'm missing part of Asia and the whole of Africa that I even tried to reach some African creators. I could find just one. But then again, it's 350 games that most people probably don't know even exist.
Exactly. Yeah. So at the moment, probably itch.io, whatever it's called, is probably the best place to find these games. I assume. Yeah. So can you give us have you got any favourites? Not your own, but other. We can talk about your own games as well, of course, in a minute. But no, we'll talk about it. But no, I just thought, a chance to just shout out a few.
Right.
Would be fun. Because you mentioned Tormentor. That was one of the biggest games.
It is, but they're fine. They're doing their thing. They don't need a shout out. They don't need a shout out. They're fine. So I'll shout out. One of my favorite games here is Ruin Explorer. It's a solo journaling RPG from Gustavo, which is a fellow Brazilian creator. And it uses a tarot deck, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's a solo journaling game with a Ghibli studio kind of vibe.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So it's very contemplative. And to go to the Southeast Asia, I have to mention, what's the name of it? Apocalyptic Keys. That's the name of the game. Let me search it.
Apocalyptic Keys.
Apocalypse Keys. It's a game.
Keys.
It's a PBTA game. I can find it easily. I mean, again, 350 games.
Well, we'll have a look for it. But so can you tell us a bit about Apocalypse Keys? So you got class, you got playbooks, and what's the theme that we're after?
The theme. Good question. How can I summarize that?
Yeah, tricky one.
I cannot, I guess.
Has it got a style or something? What strikes you about Apocalypse Keys? Is it just its own thing?
Yeah, they have a mechanic that Evil Hat is actually embracing Apocalypse Keys, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, yeah.
So they're doing fine. It's Jamila Nejdag. It's a Southeast Asia creator. I don't know the pronounce. I think it's they, them. I'll go with they, them for Jamila. Apocalypse is a game about monsters holding back the apocalypse. So they're agents that work for a mysterious organization dedicated to understand the occult, taming the supernatural, and protecting the world. And so the mechanics, they have a spin on the PBTA dice rolls that the best result is in the middle. And but you can kind of raise the stakes and add tokens for your bonus on the dice roll. So if you raise more, you have a chance of getting the middle result, but you also increase the chance of like going over and having a partial success if you go over 9 or 10. I don't know exactly how to do it.
Okay.
So it's a kind of a blackjack.
Going for the middle.
You have to aim for the middle.
Or craps sort of thing,
Yeah,
you're trying to get high enough, but not too high.
Not too high, exactly. So I think that the mechanic is very interesting. And Jamila has a lot of very good games in this list. I encourage you to go and look for that. And I'm very big on solo games, so I'll also shout out Ronin, which is another Brazilian game.
Okay, sort of about samurai?
About samurai that lost its honor, and it's a game about redemption. So you have a scar that you play to find out what it means. You have a recurring dream, and you go about venturing in this world to try and make peace with the mistakes you made and confront your nemesis. It's very good. Yeah. And it's a very good entrance point for people that never experienced solo games before, because it's more of a guided experience.
Yeah.
You have the tables, you don't have to interpret that much. And so you have tables that give you prompts and you play through an adventure. So if you never experienced solo role-playing game, that's a good starting point.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was kind of thinking from the point of view of a gamer who has never really delved into games from, say, Brazil, for example. What would they expect to find sort of generally? I mean, it sounds like there's a very broad range of games, just as broad as there is in any other grouping. So, I kind of think that some people maybe don't investigate things that aren't like immediately in front of them just because they feel that maybe it'll be too far outside their experience. And I just kind of wonder what could they expect to find? What sort of range of games? What sort of... It's a vague question. I know what I mean. I'm trying to think of how to...
It's tricky because we're sort of looking... I guess you're sort of asking, like, you want something that is familiar enough that it's not just going to be, I don't understand what I'm looking at. This is just too wild for me to get.
Right.
But it's, like, familiar enough but not so familiar, like, well, I might as well just play D&D, eh?
So, I guess there are 3 points to that question. I'll try to answer as quick as possible.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all right. We have time.
One of the things is people in Brazil and the Global South are doing games that are very familiar to the other genres of games. So we have a very strong OSR community doing traditional dungeon crawl fantasy or a spin on dungeon crawl fantasy. And so you can have familiar experiences that sound using the same stereotypes and archetypes that people that are playing for generations would find, but with a creative twist. Right? The second thing is people that are leaning heavily on their local and cultural experiences from their countries. So we have experiences like Kalimba, which is African inspired through a Brazilian lens. Brazil has a very strong African descendancy and African influence in culture, food, religion, and so on. And in Southeast Asia, Philippines, I see lots of games that rely heavily on their myths and their religion and their superstitions. So that's the second segment of that. The third one that I personally am more interested in is just a variety of different voices. It's just like more people. It's just, when you break out of the circle of the US, you just have access to more people in general. They have, of course, a cultural background that is different. They have different experience, but mostly they have different voices and they have something to show about themselves that not necessarily reflect their country as a whole. But you just have the opportunity to see what other people are doing. So my games, I don't think they are super, Brazilian in a way.
Right.
But if you didn't break through the walls of the US, you couldn't find my games.
Right, yeah.
No,
yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the three things that you can find outside of the mainstream.
Yeah. Sort of looking to break out of sort of the silo in Seattle, where there's just so many huge role-playing game companies. And it's like, there are creators outside of that part of the Western United States.
Yeah.
We're pretty sure.
And we're taking risks as we're experimenting a lot. So I have a game you play while you're sleeping. I have a game on a month.
Sorry. I gotta stop you there. You have a game you play while you're sleeping.
Yeah, I do.
I need to know more about this. Because this sounds like my sort of game.
It's my best-selling game, I have to be honest with you.
No, is it?
It is. Yeah, that was an idea I had. One of those things you just, you have to create just to make sure it exists. And I didn't think it would resonate with anybody, but I was wrong. It did. And I have it in Portuguese and English, and it's being translated to Spanish to be released in Spain, really, in a physical format. So my wildest idea became a reality, and people kind of liked it. It's surprising.
You do have to tell us now, though. How do you play a game while you're sleeping? How does that work?
Yeah, the shortest pitch I can give you is I gamified lucid dreaming.
Right. Okay.
Right. So I have a layer of Amazon myth fantasy on top of a gamification of lucid dreaming. So you're hired as a soldier of one of these entities that live in the dreamland to fight against another entity, the evil entity that's trying to dominate the dreamland. So right before you go to bed, you are given a task by a random table that you don't need to roll dice. You look at 2 digits on your watch, on your phone, add them together, you get a result from 0 to 14. So you have to go to a place and perform an activity. And then you put your headphones on, play some meditative music, go to sleep, and then you have to lucid dream, get control of your dream, and perform that activity while you're asleep.
That is some high concept stuff.
Right. So this one is kind of Brazilian because I used some native Amazon indigenous myth, but it could as well just be a lucid dreaming, and you wouldn't have the access to this trip if you didn't know that I create games, right?
Yeah.
So we experiment a lot.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that crunching sound you might have heard was the sound of my mind shifting paradigms without a clutch. It's like, what? Interesting. That's crazy. I love it. I love the experience. But
it's called a Neuronaut, and it's available on it.
Yes. Perfect name as well.
Yeah. So how many games was it you said you'd made? It was quite a few.
Well, just last year I made 10 games.
Wow. 10 games in 1 year.
Yeah. I'm around 20 right now.
Right.
Nice.
Considering Portuguese ones and English ones. And actually, I made a decision like 6 months ago to quit my job and go full-time game design. I'm very happy with the decision. I'm moneyless, penniless, but I'm so glad.
and you never get to leave the house anymore, but
but that's okay. I'm so happy. And when I made the decision, that was when I was able to release a lot of games, and I actually was releasing a game every other week. So Scraps, which is a game, it's a 70-page game I wrote, created, wrote, designed, laid out, tested, and released in 6 days.
Yeah. So you do everything yourself, do you?
Yeah.
All of that.
All of that. Running a one-man show. For a lack of resources, really. So I had to rely on public domain images. I illustrated my latest release with public domain comic books from the 50s and the 60s. Another one, I used artificial intelligence generated images to illustrate my games.
Right.
So we have to make do with the tools we have available.
Yeah. It sounds great that that's actually working out, because I think the decision to go full-time as an RPG designer is, I remember when I did it, and I have friends who have done the same thing, and for some of them it's worked, and some of them it definitely hasn't worked out. It's
right.
So it's fantastic to hear it has. So what's next? Have you got more planned? Of course you have. Otherwise.
Yeah.
I had, before I made a decision to go full time, I had a backlog of ideas of 9 years of frustration that I didn't have the time to develop my game. So I have to take a look over that to see if I'm excited with some of the ideas I still have. But I have something on the pipeline for next year. Right now I'm in the middle of moving, so everything's crazy and I don't have time I have to finish Starlight Riders, the print-on-demand version. But I can tell you that I am releasing a game early 2022 with Button Shy. I don't know if you're familiar with that company. They make wallet games. They're 18 card games that go on a small folding wallets that you put in your pocket. They're all 18 cards. And they released they had a challenge for their first 18 card tabletop game. And I participated in the challenge. They got 72 entries and I won.
Oh,
so,
good luck.
So early 2022, I'll be on my first Kickstarter.
Excellent.
Because Button Shy is in the United States. And it's the working title is I Guess This Is It. It's a 2-player game about saying goodbye.
Right.
So you role play the last moments that you and somebody you were related to. It can be a friend, a lover, a relative, a colleague, and you're saying goodbye. You're not going to see each other again ever for a number of reasons you can decide. So it's a very sad game, and I wasn't expecting to win because when a company decides to release their first role-playing game, I thought they would go for something a little bit more, I don't know, broader
traditional
audience.
mainstream.
Mainstream. They decide to go to a 2-player game that you're probably going to cry by the end of but they saw something there, and it's a very strong game in terms of feelings, right? And I'm very excited about it. They shared with me some of the arts they hired for the cards, and wow, they look amazing. And it's if you were into very intense experiences when you're role playing, I think this is a game you might want to look at.
Right.
And one of the things on the pitch for this contest, this challenge, was I want to have good card play and good role play. So there's an aspect of card play, decisions you have to make, because by the end of the game, you want to have the same amount of cards in both of your hands and the least amount of cards in both of your hands. That both symbolizes that you got a chance to say everything you had to say before saying goodbye, and that you didn't dominate the conversation and didn't let the other person talk as well. So it's a game of those moments when you have a lot to say, but you're about to say goodbye. You know your time is short and the goodbye is coming. So I'm aiming to this very intense experience. So expect that early 2022.
That's on Kickstarter. And it was called again?
I Guess This Is It.
I guess this is it. Kickstarter, early 2022. Can I talk a little bit about your process then? Because with 10 games in 1 year, I'm fascinated how someone could possibly do that, because I can't imagine writing 10 games in 1 year. So do you tend to work on them one at a time? Do you work on multiple games at the same time? How does it work for you?
So I have a continuous backlog of what ifs in my mind.
Right.
What if we had a game that used Tetris as a crafting mechanism? What if we had a game that has no objective? What if we had a game that you play while you're sleeping? So those are things that keep on my mind.
Yeah.
And then a cross reference with something completely different, and they come to fruition. And when they do, they come very fast. But I think that is due to something that I have decided that I never, ever second guess myself.
Right.
And so I might change my game. That's okay. I might decide that something that I wrote needs to be rewritten, of course. But when I have an idea, I don't stop to say, is this good enough? Is this, should I do it differently? No, I go for it.
Yeah.
I go it through the end. And then looking at the context of the game, I decide if I need to make changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this allows me to like sit down and write a game in 2 days. And then lay out everything else in the next day.
Yeah, yeah.
You've got a really clear vision of what you're trying to achieve creatively.
Yeah. And my games are very light, so that's I can say that I'm a lazy game designer, but I it's not that I don't like crunch. I was listening to Cezar Capacle talking about the in between of crunch games and light games, called chewy games, which is they have an amount of mechanics that they are only there to support that one particular experience that you're trying to achieve with that particular game.
Yeah, so, you focus on an emotional experience you want, and everything has got to be there in support of achieving that emotional experience. Yeah.
Exactly. So if I write a game about, like Scraps, it's a game, like a non-violent game about, crafting on a post-apocalyptic hopeful society. So it's a pastoral fantasy, everything. I only have a single dice roll mechanic and a couple of moves that support that one experience. I'm not going to fiddle with, death. There's no character death. There's no harm. There's no defense. There's no combat. There's no falling from what happened. I'm not interested in those things. So this leaves me a lot of room to focus exclusively on the things that I want my game to promote. You know?
So I think you're kind of trying to simulate a particular experience as opposed to something like D&D, which is trying to simulate a world.
Yeah.
And all the different things you might do in that world, whereas you're so, this is what this game is about. Yeah.
That's another thing. I go very lightly on the world building. I'm a kind of player that likes to experience emergent world building when I play games.
Yeah.
So
Start off simple, and then the natural complexity emerges as you play. Yeah.
Exactly. So I give prompts. So this is a game that there is no violence, there is a post-apocalyptic, there are ruins, that you live amongst marvelous beasts and nature. Most of the world is unknown. Go for it and explore and fill in the gaps for yourself. That's my kind of jam. So that helps releasing games that as fast as I do as well, because what's the 10th gods that I have to put on my pantheon? That never happens.
Yeah, sure. So, of all the games that you've written, are there any that you'd revisit and maybe do a sequel to, expand on? Is there any that you think I really like that one and I'd like to do more with it, or are you just happy with them as they are?
I don't think I would do. No, I have what I call the paper airplane game design philosophy.
Right.
Trademark. So, what I mean by
about the paper airplane.
Yeah. What I mean by that, I get fascinated with a new design. So I'm folding this new paper plane. I'm experiencing with folds and everything, and I'm fascinated by it. And I have this in my hand for a second. What I do is I open the window and I threw it through the window, and I admire as it flies. When it lands, I'm done. If somebody picks it up, wants to unfold it and do something else, I'm very happy with it. If this person wants to just throw this airplane again and enjoy their flight by their own, I'm happy with it. Me, myself, I'm going for the next paper and trying to do another paper airplane from scratch. Right. So that's my kind of philosophy. I'm always fascinated with the next thing I want to do.
Yeah. So, what was the one that you mentioned earlier? The latest one that you'd released?
Starlight Riders.
Yes. Could you tell us a little about that one?
Yeah, sure. It's a space western game about heists across the galaxy.
That's a lot of words that I like, all in one sentence.
Right. So yeah, I was totally externally motivated to create this game because I stumbled upon a jam on itch, a Space Western jam. And I knew near to nothing about Space Western, but the two words combined really resonated with me. So I went to and asked for some advice and suggestions for media to consume. So I watched Cowboy Bebop and what else? Galaxy Riders, is that the name? The cartoon, the 80s cartoon, and some other stuff. And I thought, this is pretty cool. And I always wanted to write my own heist game. I love Blades in the Dark and PBTA, the Forged in the Dark philosophy.
The storytelling games. Yeah,
it's very good. But for me, there's too many moving parts. Or the kind of game I like to play and I like to produce. So I wanted to do my own. So I did. And it's a card-driven game. So we have a custom deck of cards. And the thing I think it's most unusual about this game is that the characters are shared. So we have, when you sit down, we sit down to play, the three of us. We come up with a team, our heist team, much like Ocean's 11 would do. We need someone to talk to people, but on the Space Western vibe. So we have a gunslinger, we have a pilot, we have a rascal. We decided on a team. It can be like 5, 6 characters, and every turn you can decide which character you want to roleplay. So we switch.
Sounds fun, yeah.
Yeah, we switch characters among each other.
Yeah.
And the motivation behind that was every time I read a game that had classes or playbooks, I was always very excited to play like 6 of them.
Right,
and, oh, this sounds so fun, but if I decide this one,
then I have to play that one for the next 6 weeks. Yeah.
So I thought, what if, that's one of the what ifs that was in my mind, what if we had a game that you don't have to make that decision?
Yeah.
And, you'd have the opportunity.
Have your cake and eat it.
I love that though. It's like a kind of inverse troop play or something, isn't it?
Everyone loves an archetype for different reasons. So maybe someone loves the gunslinger because you want to shoot people. Fine. Maybe you love the gunslinger because of the cool look and the mannerisms they have. So when you activate the gunslinger, you have the opportunity to add something, add a trait, a quirk, or an aspect of that character that you're most interested in. So I want to provide this experience when you play a heist.
Well, this game sounds amazing. I'm not just saying that because you're here. It does sound amazing. I do want to play it.
Available on itch.io.
Or itch.io, or itch, whatever it's called. Yes. Yeah.
There you go, Rusty.
Yeah.
So this is my first game that's going to come on a boxed set. Print on demand, of course, because that's what I have. But I came across the Game Crafter, which is a print on demand website for board games. So the boxed set will have the book, which is 88 pages, to 144 cards, the custom deck, because we have the abilities of the characters in your hand that you have to play, and you have the locations and the prizes and the marks and all the moments you have on display on cards. We will have tokens, and you have some rocket-shaped dice as well.
Excellent.
So, to summarize, it's a box set, Space Western,
card-driven RPG.
Card-driven, where you do heists and so forth.
Yes. And you get to play different characters. It sounds amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The PDF is already released with, also I provided print and play version of all the cards. And also the PNG for every individual card. So if you're planning on playing on a VTT, you can do it.
Yeah.
And I'm talking with a friend of mine, so we're planning on we are releasing, after I move, tabletop simulator version of this game.
Right.
Oh,
so you can play online easily. Yeah.
Ooh. Very nice.
Yeah.
That sounds absolutely 100% wild. I'm just like,
when can we get the actual box set? When is that?
Yes.
I guess 2 weeks.
2 weeks, right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll be doing it. I will be buying that box set in 2 weeks.
I was thinking, it's like, oh, wow, this is ticking a lot of boxes for us. And then he said box set. I'm like, oh,
yes, yeah, just adding the box.
That's one guaranteed sale we've got
sale.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how much it will cost, but I guarantee that I won't take any cuts on that, because if you buy the PDF, I'm providing an at-cost coupon for the print on demand, because I realize that the worst thing about that is the most expensive item that I have on my box set is the box.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Packaging
cardboard is wild at the moment.
Yeah. It is. So, that's the thing I have to do. But, anyways, I hope, it's worth it, because I put my heart in this game. I played with, my wife and my niece. They had a blast. They asked to play again. And, I think it really works. And this is the game I spend the most time with. Partially because I'm, actually moving. So, my life is upside down.
Yeah.
If I took the camera and spinned around it, you wouldn't recognize it. It sounds peaceful with this background, but it isn't. So I'm a little late releasing the game. I promised the box set for 10 days ago, but I think people can read the PDF now and get used to the game and expect the box set very soon. Right.
Okay then. So we need to wind up. So just very lastly, let's just touch back on the whole Global South thing. So where is the best place for people to go to support creators in the Global South? Where should we be looking?
Right. A good start. It sounds a little pretentious, but it isn't. I promise. It's much bigger than me. A good start is the collection that I put out on H.io.
Yeah.
Because there, not only you have access to 358 games from the Global South, you have access to the creators behind them. And every single one of them links their own profile on Twitter on their creators page. Right. So, you can, with low effort, start to curate your own online experience of consuming content from those creators. If you start to follow these people,
and then you can branch off as you wish,
exactly. You can retweet them, you can raise their voices to your own audiences, you can know firsthand when they're releasing something that I might have missed on my collection, because there's no automated process. I literally go one by one. When I see a release, I add the collection by hand.
It's all manually done.
Yes, and I have just like 10 games there, and most of it is from different people. So I'm doing this because I could. I had the chance on my hands. I have to say this before we sign off. Momentos, it's they. Oh my God, I lost. I think it's they. They released across rpgc.com or across-rpgc.com, which is when I started doing this collection, I went to this website, which is a website to promote creators from Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
And they have a great amount of games there. So I went one by one and looked into each to see if the games were there and put all the games there. There's Emmanuel Melo from Brazil made an niche collection with Brazilian games.
Yeah.
Put everything there. So what I did, actually, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants because I took everything that people did before me and I put it on a Global South huge collection. So shout out to them to doing this first. And if you know of anyone that created a game and they identify themselves from the Global South, including people that are from the Global South that now live in a different country, it's totally valid. Just shout out at me on Twitter. I don't curate. I don't select. I don't think anyone is worth more than any other. I just put it in there.
Whack them all in there.
Yeah, welcome them all.
Yeah. Fantastic. And fingers crossed, hopefully Kickstarter will come to its senses and start offering its services to more countries soon.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yes.
It's been a blast.
It's been amazing.
I've had real fun. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Yes.
When you next have something to announce, let us know.
Yes.
More than happy to.
Be touched, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. It's been really good.
And we will talk again.
Bye.
Apparently I now have to read this to you. This is the official podcast of Morris's unofficial tabletop RPG news, which you can find at enworld.org. You can find show notes at morris.podbean.com or wherever you found the podcast. If you feel like they deserve it, you can support the show on Patreon. In return, you will receive exclusive bonus content. Just go to patreon.com/Morrus. If you're interested in his babbling nonsense, you can follow at Morrus on the Twitter. Send your emails to morrispodcast@gmail.com. Not all of your emails, just the ones you want us to see. That's it. I'm bored now. You can go away. Shoo, off you go. Goodbye. Get out of here.
Russ writes a sketch like every week.
I am hilarious, and you know it. And anyone who doesn't think so is just wrong.
Right.
I see. You can't really argue that sort of unquestionable belief.
Exactly. But that's right. I make myself laugh, and I'm happy with that.